So that's what I think is probably the most unaccounted for byproduct of insulin resistance and that huge increase in circulating insulin. It's the overproduction of amylin because, as we'll see, and amylin has a couple different names. So when you look it up in the research, I'll have some titles here for papers. You need to make sure that you know all of its names. So amylin is also called islet amyloid polypeptide, or IAPP. It's even shown in some papers as HIAPP, which just means human islet amyloid polypeptide. There are some experiments using rat or rodent IAPP. It's all kind of based on amylin. But of note, remember, beta cells make amylin and insulin. So in that transient stage of too much insulin, there is also too much amylin. And amylin is prone to aggregation. And aggregation just means kind of clumping together. Now, that's a problem because amylin aggregates have been shown to be disruptive to cell function. They disrupt cell membranes. That there's a huge misfolded proteins, right? A lot of people know misfolded proteins in epidemiology have a lot to do with the development of disease because it's like you're getting instructions, but the instructions are all crumpled and you're not able to actually make what the instructions are asking for effectively. But with this abundance of amylin causing amylin aggregation, they actually form plaques that are comparable to the beta amyloid plaques being found in Alzheimer's patients. Okay, so that's the big tie there. So you'll see here, human islet amyloid polypeptide, a therapeutic target for the management of type 2 diabetes. Now, people are focusing on amylin for the treatment of type 2 diabetes to help manage hunger, to help regulate blood sugar, while simultaneously the research is also acknowledging that IAPP, or amylin, is also very similar in form and function to the plaques being formed in the brains of people with Alzheimer's. All right, so this is from the NIH. Amyloid plaques form in the brains of people who have Alzheimer's and can lead to problems with brain function. All amyloid plaques begin as strings of amino acids called amyloid beta peptides, or AB peptides. Now, let's think about what I've got this graphic here. This shows basically what a beta sheet or an AB sheet, alpha beta or amyloid beta peptide looks like. So I like the word plaque just because it's a little bit easier, kind of like plaque in your teeth, plaque in your brain for Alzheimer's. These beta sheets are like plaque in your brain cells, preventing them from functioning properly. Now, the plaques around your brain cells are made up of these amyloid sheets, which are, in essence, aggregates of these amyloid fibrils. So we've got a lot of different research going into the connections between the beta sheets found in people with Alzheimer's disease and the amylin aggregates that are a byproduct of people experiencing diabetes and altered glucose metabolism. So the general thought is that this insulin resistance and the resulting aggregation of amylin is an accomplice to the development of Alzheimer's disease. Because in that state of insulin resistance, because insulin, there's so much insulin in circulation, there's so much amylin in circulation, and neither of those are able to do what they're supposed to, they kind of go off and do their own thing. Insulin is taking all that sugar that it can't get into the cell and it's storing it as fat. So people are becoming obese. Amylin aggregates to form these amyloid plaques, which make their way up to the nerve cells in the brain. Now, important note, because you can get lost, on this slide when really we talked about before, all of this is happening in a state of chronic inflammation being caused by nutrient deficiencies of the food that we're taking in. So not only is that inflammation continuing, causing these conditions to occur, but once the new conditions occur, the insulin overproduction and the amylin overproduction, the byproducts of those are even furthering the inflammation happening. So it is just piling on the sources of inflammation in the body. And, as you can tell in our healthscape right now, we're kind of drowning in it. We don't know how to get rid of all this inflammation. So this is kind of like a breeze through graphic and a summary, basically a summary of kind of everything I've run through. So could Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia be caused by prolonged insulin resistance? I say yes. So step one, nutrient deficiencies leading to iron overload. This could have happened with your great-grandfather. This could have happened with your grandfather. It just keeps passing down. Not only are we passing genes, but we're also passing on the cellular environments, right? So if your father and your mother are nutrient deficient, you do not magically just have everything you need when you're born, right? All of these deficiencies and imbalances accrue generation after generation. So with these deficiencies and these imbalances come chronic low-grade inflammation. It just so happens that iron overload, which is one of the major deficiencies and imbalances being inflicted by the food that we're eating, targets beta cells. So the beta cells die off. It leads to beta cell ferroptosis. Ferroptosis is a fancy word for cell death by iron. Okay, so beta cells are dying off. Insulin resistance is increasing. We talked about that on the graph before. This leads to that overproduction of insulin and amylin. An overproduction of insulin and amylin leads to amyloid plaques, right? Too much amylin, it aggregates and sticks and blocks the nerve cells from being able to, or the brain cells, neurons, from being able to do what they need to. It exacerbates the beta cell die-off and makes diabetes and all of the associated metabolic dysfunction even worse. Both of those things, the amyloid plaques and diabetes, and all of that kind of autoimmune type stuff, negatively affects our brain cells' ability to metabolize glucose, which furthers dementia and Alzheimer's along the way. And I mentioned before, just in passing, that amylin aggregation does not just affect neurons and brain cells. It also makes things worse for the beta cells themselves, right? So there's a paper, Kiriyama and Nochi. I'll include that in the link in the description as well if you'd like to read. The amylin aggregates in islets in beta cells further the inflammatory damage happening to the endoplasmic reticulum, the mitochondria, all of the organelles responsible for the cell living, right? So this is kind of like death from the inside. So, this has not been the most uplifting of podcast episodes. Hang in there, because there is something that we can do as people experiencing insulin resistance, as people with diabetes, as people interested in taking care of, brain health. Again, none of this is meant to treat, cure any diseases. This is all educational. You have to do your own research. These are the things that I am doing and experiencing success with. But there are natural compounds found that limit the toxicity of amyloid aggregates. I've got the title of the paper below. They focused on two compounds, alpha lipoic acid and absorbic acid, or vitamin C. So you could ask yourself, well, what, okay, great. Alpha lipoic acid and vitamin C, where do I get those? The best place it can come from is your food, right? People are so conditioned to jump for supplements, and supplements can be helpful. You need to be very, very cognizant of where your supplements are coming from and what else is in them besides the advertised product. Food is the best place, right? So broccoli, spinach, red meat, organ meat, Brussels sprouts, tomatoes, peas, brewer's yeast, all very, very rich in alpha lipoic acid. Okay. Absorbic acid, right? Everyone's so familiar with vitamin C. Again, food is the best source. I do not want everyone just going out and getting emergency. Emergency is trash, right? You need to be aware of how your vitamin C is being sourced, what it is mixed with, and how that affects the effects of vitamin C. So obviously citruses, orange, kiwi, lemon, grapefruit, strawberries have even more vitamin C than an orange, bell peppers, tomatoes, your cruciferous vegetables, and white potatoes. Go figure. Of honorable mention here is also copper. So copper has been studied independently for its ability to affect the ability of amylin aggregation to form those beta sheets that cause the plaques in brain cells. Okay? Copper has been shown to inhibit the formation of those beta sheets, of those plaques in brain cells. Ironically enough, and I say this tongue in cheek because I don't think it's ironic at all, copper acts opposite iron. I talked ad nauseum about the effect of iron on the development of disease. Copper acts opposite iron, right? We're iron overloaded. Copper helps in so many different ways. This is just one of them. Okay. So eat more organ meats, more shellfish, fish, nuts, seeds, chocolate. Look for copper-rich foods. That's what I did. I supplement as well. I've got links for those in the description, but it's all there. It's all there. It's all there. Alpha lipoic acid, vitamin C, and copper. Useful tools in managing amylin aggregation.